So here we have a beautiful Scarlet E-Type Series 1 at the British Motor Museum. It's going to be the basis for my build this time. Now the kit from Airfix is moulded in this green, which I think is a bit too military in my opinion. There are quite a few mould seams unfortunately, so good idea to go at those before starting your build. I'm using UMP sanding sticks here. The kit was then primed in fine grey primer from Tamiya in the spray can. This is the light grey variety. Make sure to get underneath the coverage. Once that had dried, I then used some Tamiya X7 red, thinned down about half with some X20A, Tamiya thinner. I'm still fairly new to airbrushing, so feel free to critique my method. What I will do next time is put the camera in a different place so that my hand doesn't cover over all the work. Just checking for coverage. And then I'm doing the underside of the car in exactly the same paint. Not worried too much about the suspension areas because most of that will be painted silver later on. And here it is. Now you've got the chrome trim around the windows and also along the bonnet. So I'm going to mask that off and then paint it. Here I'm using some Tamiya curved masking tape and then some standard tape around the windows. I very carefully use a new craft blade to cut around the window trims. Need a very steady hand to do this, as you can so easily ruin the paintwork. So there it is. I'd actually forgotten to do the rear window, so I had to do that later. And now I'm using some Tamiya X11 silver chrome. As I learnt later, make sure to wash the airbrush really thoroughly after using metallics, as I left some silver flake in, which came through in some other paint later on, which was unfortunate. There we are. Made sure to mask on the inside of the windows to make sure there wasn't any bleed, and this is sped up about 10 times. And there we have it. Pretty happy with that. Things like the doors and the inside of the lights, I'll do those later. So the interior of the car is a kind of beige leather, so I'm using some Revell ochre for this job. This is exactly the same colour that I used for the interior of the Revell E-Type. The parts count has been severely reduced on this E-Type kit by having the seats and the gear stick and things like that moulded into place. It's a bit of a shame, but just got to be really careful when painting these bits. And here it is after 2 coats. Now I decided to do these runners in the back, black and silver. So the first thing I did was, once the paint had dried, went over them with a little bit of black Sharpie. Any mistakes can be painted over. And then once that had all dried, I then used this silver Posca paint pen with a very thin nib to go over the top. I also added some more details such as the gear stick using black and the handbrake using the chrome pen as well. There we are, finished interior. Now this kit, despite being a British classic, is moulded with a left-hand drive dashboard. So what I decided to do was to fill in the glove box on the right with some putty. This is Mr. Hobby putty. I will then smooth that out and I'll convert it to a right-hand drive. Steering wheel was painted in wood brown and then I covered that up with some clear orange to look like varnish. The centre was done in silver. Here's the dashboard done in black with some silver accents, and I cut out the pedals and moved them over to the right. There's the decals as well. And I drilled a little hole underneath and glued the steering wheel into place. You'll see very little detail of this once the roof is on, but never mind. Then that slots into place like so. There we are, right-hand drive. As you can see, the underside is now all red, and I used some silver to add details to the underside of the engine and the suspension. The rear suspension place was done in black, and there were also a couple of plates around the engine which also needed to be black. There's the gearbox. Now the indicators on this kit are decals, but it's a good idea to do the back of them silver just to make sure that you've got the sort of chrome surrounds. And the headlights need to be silver as well. There we are. So the decals are pretty nicely done. As I said, the indicators are all decals on this kit. You could choose to paint them if you want to, but you'd struggle to get the fine detail. So they're in there for about 10 seconds. And then you've got the little Jaguar E-Type 4.2 litre decal which goes on the boot lid like so. That's a nice touch because they certainly didn't have this decal on the older Airfix E-Type kit. And then the rear decals go on like so. I've put down a little micro set to help them fit into place. I'll put some clear gloss over this later. And there's the ones at the front. Now, painting the wheels is so much easier because they're made of two parts. Firstly, paint the hubs in matte black, and then use a very thin silver paintbrush or a Posca paint pen like I'm using here. You could also use some Molotow chrome perhaps to add the details of the wires. These aren't 100% realistic, but they're certainly miles better than the wire wheels that Airfix put in their kits in 1/32 scale. Then the wheels go in really simply. It's good to leave the back of the hubs unpainted so that they glue together nicely. So the rear ones have got these extra discs in the middle. I think they might have been the brakes actually. This is just a little test fit, but you can see how I've painted the exhaust system in iron and the rear suspension in semi-gloss black. The fitment of all of these parts is really good. There's small pinholes which you can glue in from the upper side. And then the front wheels go in like so. I recommend giving this kit a really good dry fit first to make sure that all the pieces are in tightly as possible, as there's not a great deal of space when you put the roof on. There it is with the interior, and it even rolls. So next step is to get an accurate number plate. I designed the plate on the computer and then printed it out, but it was on transparent decal paper, so I'm going to need to put down some white. I cut out a small piece of white decal from just a spare one that I had in the box. And then once that was down nicely, I then pressed down the other one over the top. Now the rear window here needs to be put into place in a particular way. Basically you need to put one of the side windows through the side wall of the car and then push the other one into place from the inside, and that will have them both fitting nicely. So if you look at the instructions here, you can see how these are well written instructions, so refer to them carefully. Then once that's glued into place, put some glue down the side of the chassis like so, and clamp the bodywork together. I used some Tamiya masking tape to help hold the body in place, as it's a bit of a difficult fit this. I'd say probably one of the most challenging parts of the build. Now the bumpers were all done in Molotow chrome, and there's some nice slots to fit them into place, especially here at the front. Refer to the instructions to make sure that you get these the right way up. And these gaps are quite handily hidden by the addition of the bumpers. There we are. Now the windscreen, I'd already used some silver paint pen to do the windscreen wipers, but then I used some Sharpie like so to do the black trim around the edge. And the window actually just slots into place quite nicely. There we are. No rear view mirror on this one, I'm afraid. Now there is some raised detail on the headlight covers at the front, which need to be chrome around the outside. I used the Posca paint pen for this, it's perfect for this kind of job. And then I used some foam safe super glue, just a tiny amount around the edge to fit them into place. The fitment of these parts is, like most of the kit, really good. There we are. And the final touch is to add the small Jaguar badge to the centre of the bumper. And there we are, it's finished. This is a nice starter set from Airfix and hopefully going to get a lot more people into the hobby. And here it is with the real car. Hopefully you'll agree that it's a fairly good replica of the real version. And remember, you can see this and many other Jaguars in the Jaguar Daimler Heritage Trust collection at the British Motor Museum. Let me know what you think of this kit down below. Have you built it? Have you built any of the other Airfix starter sets? Thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you soon.